Hello and welcome to the hard sell, where the stick in the swill-bucket rattles back. No, over here. That's better. Yes, Christmas is upon us once more, the great purchasing season, and so it's time to look back on a set of festive commercials from the day.
Have a break.
The day, in this case, being the 18th of December 1998, a week before the event, in the middle of Coronation Street on ITV Yorkshire. Sadly, this isn't the year that Coronation Street went out on Christmas Day at 10 to 3 and incorporated the Queen's speech. That was 1991, and one of the most surreal moments in the show's 800-decade history. 10 minutes in, after much faffing about Amanda Barry not having shown up because she's being seduced by Mike Baldwin, how often did that happen? Who decided Johnny Briggs was a sex god? Anyway, 10 minutes in, Alf and Audrey Roberts sit down to watch Her Royal Mrs. Queenness live as it actually genuinely happened. On ITV, naturally, complete with the Dundas Idem music.
Even Alma could mix up Christmas Day, nobody could.
Oh, well, we'll give it till after the Queen's speech. So we'll start with Alta.
Even though Granada had in fact dropped the generic ITV trappings in favour of the blue stripe by then. And then 5 minutes later, Ian Queen finishes up, and ITV cuts straight back to Alf and Audrey, turning the telly off, and then carried on with the rest of the episode. Really strange thing to do. Weirded a lot of people out, apparently. Never tried that again. Anyway, that's completely irrelevant, but it's also one of my favourite stupid Christmas TV facts, so I thought I'd use the flimsy excuse to talk about it. I regret nothing. Because it's Corrie in the late 90s, we get a bit of bonus material in the shape of a sponsorship sting from Cadbury. These were semi-iconic while they lasted, which is to say between 1996 and 2006, because of the form they took. Animated, bespoke Corrie episodes in miniature, in a universe apparently made entirely from chocolate. Inevitably animated by Aardman, albeit with CGI rather than clay, or indeed chocolate. The specific Cadbury brand varied episode to episode. Today it's the highly Christmas-appropriate tinned assortment Roses, the perpetual runner-up to Quality Street. Because this is the middle of the show, we just get the name and a basic animation, but I've tracked down the fully animated bits that would have topped and tailed proceedings, because I'm just that good to you. Frankly, you don't deserve me.
Coronation Street is sponsored by Cadbury's Roses, the nation's favourite.
Thank you.
Coronation Street is sponsored by Cadbury's Roses, the nation's favourite.
There, that was worth the trouble, wasn't it? Try not to think of how these are chocolate people in a chocolate universe, apparently giving each other chocolates to express gratitude, and how that's possibly cannibalism. Although since literally everything is chocolate in this reality, and not just the people, that term might be meaningless. Or the supposed gift is actually the most worthless thing in the entire universe, since it's everywhere and everything. Don't think about any of those things. Anyway, on to the actual adverts, and not a moment too soon.
Pocket the hits at ASDA.
Ooh, a montage of arses. Which also describes any given hip-hop music video from the past 20 to 30 years. Obviously, the target audience, and probably even a modern audience, would recognise the double arse pat as signifying ASDA. A few months from their acquisition by Walmart, but already trying to emulate their model as much as possible, with the first few stadium-sized hypermarkets already landed in former middles of nowhere. Also here, they're imitating the likes of HMV and Woolworths by providing a frame for a specific possible gift item, topping and tailing what amounts to an advert for this one record with their own names. It worked for HMV, R-Price, Woolworths and the like, because those were either department stores or actual record stores. With ASDA, a supermarket, it feels kind of like a category error. The thing is, though, Walmart came to own ASDA a few months later by parachuting in at the last minute to ongoing talks to sell the company somewhere else, specifically to the British conglomerate Kingfisher, owners of B&Q, Screwfix, and at the time, Comet, Superdrug and Woolworths. Until Walmart showed up with their bulging wallet right at the last moment, ASDA joining these venerable brands had seemed inevitable. Talks were at a pretty advanced stage by the end of 1998. This Woolworths aping Adverts seems to be anticipating this glorious Kingfisher future, which probably would have been better than the real timeline, in which Kingfisher's failure to capture Asda led to them selling off everything except B&Q, its continental equivalent Brico Dépôt, and Screwfix, which is all they consist of today. In the other timeline, maybe they were a major British retail chain with influence across the globe, and Tesco didn't have everything to itself for the past 30 years. Then again, in that other timeline, maybe Comet, Woolworths, Superdrug and the rest have all been rebranded as Asda. Swings and roundabouts or something. Having said all of that bollocks, a supermarket is the perfect context for a record like this.
And Pocket Heartbeat, the 60s Gold Collection. Over 50 classic hits. Probably the greatest 60s collection ever released.
An exercise in pure product, consisting of whatever 60 songs the label could afford to license, justified by the name of a currently popular television program, purely so they can use clips from it in the advertising. This exists, essentially, solely to be sold. Compilations of this nature often come out around November or December, for some reason.
Pocket Heartbeat, the 60s Gold Collection at a golden $14.99. That's Asda price.
Everybody's looking for gift ideas at Christmas.
There's still 2 years to the PlayStation 2. Enjoy it while you can, kid. It ain't dead yet. There's still Final Fantasy VIII and Silent Hill.
So at Curry's, we've brought together our best choice ever.
Your parents might have some problems there. A strangely mannered advert here for Curry's, the electronics store that recently got a relaunch. Why does everything have to have a flat, boring logo? Well, because of tablets and phones making them into miniature squared-off icons? That's an argument for making them more interesting, not less. Anyway, Curry's. Probably the last of the great electronics stores that probably peaked in the gadget-obsessed 80s and 90s and largely died out when those gadgets turned traitor and made it possible to buy stuff without going into shops. Comet, Tandy, Curry stablemate Dixon's, Rumbelows, Macklin. They're all dead, albeit one or two of them have had their corpses dug up by upstart companies for the sake of name recognition. So here's some faintly formalist bollocks featuring various strange people, kind of like what might happen if you pumped Wes Anderson full of sugar, as a way of vaguely invoking the sheer variety of the British people.
You'll find inspiration for everyone, including our biggest ever choice of games. And we promise, if you find a cheaper price, we'll match it on the spot. Curry's, the choice for you.
Curry's, the choice for you.
At least we heard him the first time.
If we can get a little closer.
Slightly disturbing intro into a strange premise.
The nocturnal activities of this species are fascinating. Some nibble delicious wafer-thin after eights.
After eights. Gotta have those hanging around at Christmas, slowly depleting over the course of the week. Eating one before 8 p.m. is of course illegal, while eating one and putting the little black bag back in the box is a crime punishable by death. Yeah, I'm joking. Look at me joking. See how I joke. Don't quite understand the wildlife on one premise, though.
Here we see a challenge to the dominant male, who's clearly marked his territory. With awesome eyesight, this creature spots one lone after 8 and devours mercilessly.
Maybe it would have worked better if it hadn't seemed quite so half-assed. Also, the David Attenborough impression sounds more like a Simon Cadell impression, to the point where I actually looked it up to make sure that it was 1996 and not 1999 that he died in. It was. Still, the punchline's good.
And here...
Blasted film crew got in here again.
Oh dear, looks as though we've been spotted.
This one's not particularly Christmassy. Now, I know I made a movie once that had one of these things in it. Hell, where's my oxygen mask?
Get your motor running. Head out on the highway. Looking for adventure. And whatever comes our way.
This is just under a year from the 30th anniversary of Easy Rider. And 30 years is arguably the climatic extreme of nostalgia. At 10, things are still relatively recent. At 20, they become retro and cool. Beyond 30, they're just old. Hence a lot of this hippie/freak/counterculture imagery being recapitulated in advertising, largely aimed at people old enough to remember it the first time, if only vaguely.
Yeah, darling, go make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. Like a true nature's child, we were born to be wild. I never wanna die.
This is, of course, the post-Speed Dennis Hopper, by which I definitely mean the movie.
Born to be wild.
Okay, RC. Tiny Tanic, the story of a boating lake disaster where a small but exquisitely handsome man saves a drowning puppy from 6 inches of icy water.
No. 2 gram pan supremes.
I'm sorry, I need to unpack this. We've got a young Stephen Mangan, Lou Hirsch doing his obnoxious British TV American shtick, and an over-energetic redhead from a modelling agency, yelling down a fisheye lens about unfunny movie riffs at a redundantly shrunken Ronnie Corbett.
Withering Heights. Beautiful girl ghost haunts vertically challenged guy in white blouse.
Forget it.
This is so stupid.
Are no good parts for petite actors anymore.
This is so fucking stupid. It's causing me actual physical pain. I think it's sympathy. I feel embarrassed for all 4 of these guys. Lou Hirsch was Baby Herman, for Christ's sake. And Stephen Mangan, at least his career's still ahead of him at this point. And her, I don't even know who she is, but I hope her paycheck is made up for it. And as for Ronnie Corbett, where do you start? 90% of his material over his entire life was about being a short ass.
I have just finished shooting my new blockbuster feature film, Rocky 3.5.
And 100% of it was funnier and less stupid than this.
Are no good parts for petite actors anymore. I'm sticking with plan A.
You're gonna eat Grand Pan Supremes in the hope that the super big toppings will somehow make you grow.
Right.
It's not just that it's contrived, it's that it's a completely pointless contrivance. The idea, premise, and joke aren't clever, or funny, or sensical enough to justify the effort. The result is just noise.
Right. New Pizza Hut Grand Pan Supreme. You don't need to be a big star to enjoy bigger toppings.
With a Pizza Hut logo at the end. Which is enough to make a technically effective advert, so well done there. Oh, thank God we're back with the chocolate business. 10 years this partnership lasted. After they left Coronation Street, around about the same time Kraft started sniffing around preparing to essentially devour them. They were replaced by Harvey's Furniture, that meerkat thing that no one can remember what it's for anymore, and from the start of 2021, Argos.
Argos Fast Track Delivery sponsors Coronation Street.
Isn't that exciting? 1998 is obviously right on the cusp of the information revolution that changed the retail game forever. The ability to order online was still in its relative infancy. Amazon still accepted cheques, for Christ's sake. But as we all know, it grew up to effectively murder the high street. Most of Currys' competitors, and very nearly Currys itself, were destroyed over the following 20 years, not to mention the entire concept of the high street variety store, such as Woolworths and Littlewoods, strangling Asda's ambitions of joining them in its cot, although obviously not being bought by Woolworths' then owners won't have helped either. It was a gradual process, so there is no definitive last Christmas for the high street, but this is one of the last times it was truly secure as the main, if not quite the only, shopping choice.